Hey everybody, welcome inside the Citrus TV studios. I'm Jay Alter alongside Varun Raghupathi, here to bring you Cuse Countdown Bowl Edition. Syracuse 6-6 headed out west to the Texas Bowl, where they'll play against Minnesota, an 8-4 Big Ten team. So an ACC Big Ten matchup, Varun. What are you looking forward to most?
Well, before December 27th comes around and they play this game, I'm looking for the Rodeo Bowl on December 26th. That's a matchup of the two teams doing all kinds of cowboy-related activities, cattle roping and mascot lassoing and different things like that. And if you look at it historically, there have been 6 Texas Bowls. The team that has won the Rodeo Bowl is 5-1 in the actual Texas Bowl, the one loss. Minnesota last year against Texas Tech, they lost by 3 to the Red Raiders.
Put my money on Drew Allen winning in the cattle roping, the one, out west guy on this Syracuse roster. Now, Minnesota was in the game last season, and again, last season the Gophers faced off against the Orange in Minnesota. It was a rough game offensively for SU, especially for Ryan Nassib. He threw an interception on his first pass attempt. Again, 4 turnovers for Syracuse, but that was back then. New team now. Some would say a less offensive team for Syracuse. Minnesota still returns a stellar defense. And Varun, what can Syracuse do to break down this Golden Gopher defense?
Well, the Gophers defensively as a whole, 5th in the Big Ten. That's above Penn State and Northwestern, 2 teams the Oranges lost to. But if you look at the splits, the rushing defense is only 7th in the Big Ten. And down the stretch, in 4 of the Gophers' last 5 games, they gave up at least 190 yards on the ground. That includes against an Indiana team that is only 5-7 and is not going bowling. So if Syracuse can maintain the running game and go forward with Jerome Smith, we don't know if Prince Tyson-Gully is going to play, but they've got a wealth of options in the backfield. Devontae McFarland is there, so is George Morris II. And I think Syracuse will be pretty good. That depends on if they run the ball enough in this game.
Now, as Varun just mentioned, Syracuse 0-2 against the Big Ten so far this season under Scott Shafer. Under Scott Shafer's reign, they're 6-6 in his first season as head coach. What's your X factor to get Syracuse the win?
My X factor isn't Shafer. It's one of his assistant coaches, offensive coordinator George McDonald's play calling. If he is able to run the football and go through Jerome Smith and the guys that I just mentioned, I think Syracuse will be successful. You look at the Orange's best stretch of football this year, Maryland and Wake Forest. They beat the Demon Deacons 13-0, and they beat the Terrapins 20-3. In those 2 games, they ran a combined 90 times. Long drives, they kept the defense fresh, and the Orange's defense helped SU win those 2 games in a row and got them to bowl eligibility with the 6 wins. So if Syracuse can keep up the running that they had, maybe not 45 runs in this game because, Terrell Hunt's been playing well, especially in that BC game, but something around there, maybe 40 rushes a game. I think that if McDonald's play calling is good in that regard, Syracuse has a good shot to win this game.
So, Varun, does Syracuse get a little revenge on last season's game against Minnesota and get their first win against a Big Ten opponent?
I know the record says that Minnesota should win this game easily, but I'm going to take Syracuse in an upset of sorts.
Man.
28-24, the Orange takes it. I think the coaching staff is really come in tune with the Orange's strengths, and I think Syracuse is going to come away with its 3rd bowl win in 4 years. Jerome Smith's going to have himself a day. Remember DeLone Carter in the 2010 Pinstripe Bowl, PTG last year in the Pinstripe Bowl. Jerome Smith is the next SU back to have a day in an SU postseason game. Syracuse takes it by 4 over Minnesota.
And more importantly, who's your X factor and prediction for the Rodeo Bowl?
I would have to say Drew Allen, the Oklahoma native. Scott Shafer mentioned earlier this week that Allen's going to be a big part of that December 26th event. So we got to see if he can rope some cattle, right?
Well, it's going to be a fun time for the Orange out west in Scott Shafer's first bowl appearance as head coach. You can follow us at Citrus TV Sports on Twitter to stay with us for all the updates throughout the week. I'm sure we'll get you some good pictures of the Rodeo Bowl as well as updates from the Texas Bowl. It's going to be a fun one. Enjoy it, everybody.